When you are done working with the different colors of your images and you're finished with controlling how your images look, you're ready to save your images. If you want these layers to be present, you do not want to save this image at this point as a JPEG because your image will be compressed. So right now, these images are still my raw files. If I try to exit from any of these pictures, I'm going to get a message saying save changes to the Adobe Photoshop document before closing, and it's going to make you save a different file format. I have two options. I could save this image as an uncompressed file, which will be either a TIFF file format or a PSD file format. So if I go to print this image and I find out that the print isn't to my liking, I will go back to a TIFF file to make corrections. The way you do that is that you select your image, you go up to File, and you choose Save As. This will open up a dialog box. I save my images to my computer. I usually do not save to cloud, but that's a personal preference. So it's going to give you by default a PSD file, which is a file that is uncompressed with all the layers. I prefer to use a file format that is TIFF. A PSD and a TIFF file are basically the same thing. I prefer to use TIFF because then with this file format, I could open up in any previous version of Photoshop, where PSD file format may have a difficult time being opened up with an earlier version of Photoshop. Once I select my TIFF, I could rename my file and call it my work file. You can also call it your layers. And if you're worried about not remembering the version that it is, you could go ahead and call this version of your file layers bluer. So then you know that this is a bluer version of your image. You're going to click Save, and then TIFF options will come up. It's just going to tell you that there's no image compression. Everything else is going to be left on default. When you click OK, it's going to give you another message saying including layers will increase file size. That's great. You want the layers in there. You do not want to get rid of your layers because this is going to be the file format where you go back to make changes. Down at the bottom, you will see how long it's going to take to save. Once you're completed saving your image, you will see it show up in the top menu here where you will see the version of your TIFF. So this is my image. This is layers bluer TIFF that I just completed doing. Now I'm going to take the same image and I'm going to go up to File and I'm going to save as a JPEG. I'll save it on my computer. From the Format drop-down menu, I will choose JPEG. I will change the name to either print or final, whichever name you want to give your image so you know where your image, which one's which, to stay organized. You can also choose where you're going to save it. So my images are saved in my original raw folder. You can also choose if it's for printing or if you're going to send it off to share. You can choose to open that up on save it on your desktop. Then it will appear on your desktop. When your JPEG options window shows up, you want to make sure that your image quality is set to 12, which is maximum, and that the slider is set to large file. Then you click on OK, and your image will be saved to the location that you chose. Your first image and your most important image is the original, which is the raw file. Then you go and you save as a TIFF. So you could go back to this image and do further corrections if you ever need to. The last step in your workflow should be to save your image as a JPEG for posting, sharing, and for printing.